Welcome back. Took the unfortunate mauling death of a woman earlier this year to move the issue of loose dogs to the top of the agenda at City Hall. Peter Brodsky, the man with the seemingly impossible task of fixing that problem, as chair of the city's Animal Advisory Commission, which you thought you were just going to be kind of in charge of making sure we had a nice Dallas City shelter, right?
I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but it's been a great experience.
The consulting company brought in says about 8,700 plus or minus loose dogs in the southern sector of Dallas. First, why did we need a bunch of MBAs to tell us that? You could have gone to a barbershop in South Dallas and they'd tell you there's a loose dog problem.
Well, you're right. Anybody who's lived with this problem, who lives in that part of the city, knows that there's a loose dog problem. The issue is that nobody's ever been able to say how bad is the problem, and is it getting worse? And so a couple of the things we've learned from this study is that we now have a snapshot in time right now about how many loose dogs there are, so that from there we can measure progress. The other thing is we've measured bites for the first time, and we know that the problem is getting worse. And it's really important to have that fact base, because people can say all they want that there are loose dogs. If there are other people saying, oh, that's just the loud voices, it's not really that bad, they're exaggerating. If you don't have any facts and data to refute that, then it's really hard to build consensus.
So this becomes a public safety issue, also a quality of life issue, because there are people who are afraid to walk out of their homes to get the mail every day because of the loose dogs.
Absolutely. There are people who are afraid to come out of their homes. There are people who have dogs following them on the way to work, children who are afraid to go to school, parks that aren't as used, front yards that aren't able to be played in. And whether or not they're actually being attacked at any given moment, there's the fear that they will be. It's intimidating.
You're talking about a very aggressive program to spay and neuter dogs, and not just the loose dogs, dogs that are owned by, in some cases, responsible pet owners. They're just not spayed or neutered.
Yeah, the recommendations are, there's 7 of them, and I would say we've highlighted the spay-neuter because that's really how you solve the problem.
That's the most expensive problem.
It is the most expensive problem, but the good news is there are a lot of funders and a lot of 501c3s that are already focused on this, and if we can rally them all together and do this surge, we can solve the problem. But in the meanwhile, while that takes time to do, we've got to pick up more dogs off the street, and then we need to work once they're in the shelter to make sure they have positive outcomes, so we don't see the euthanization rate spike.
Can you take that many dogs off the streets and put them up for adoption? You're going to have some of them are going to be unadoptable and are going to have to be euthanized.
Well, look, even in cities that have achieved what they call no kill, 10% of the dogs still are euthanized. Right. Because there are dogs that are too sick or too with behavior problems that can't be adopted. Right now we're euthanizing many more dogs than fit that category. But there are some techniques that BCG has looked at from across the country where there are best practices about how we could increase positive outcomes. And it is absolutely doable to both increase the intake and increase the positive outcomes, so you don't end up with a spike in euthanization.
Thanks for your work as a volunteer doing this, and good luck with the politicians at City Hall finding the money to make it work. We appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Absolutely.